All right. Hey, everyone. It seems like I've been with you guys all day, right? So we are in for a treat. You guys said you wanted to know more about money, and here is your opportunity to get your finances aligned. We are going to have our featured CPA firm just go over how to keep that positive cash flow, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure y'all don't see my kiddo's feet in this picture. So I'm going to bring on our co-host as well as our featured guest speaker. So make sure you're taking notes. But you are able to ask questions during the entire presentation, and this presentation is recorded and will be stored in our announcements tab. And then after next week, it'll be in our files. So again, make sure that you've got your pens and paper and your thinking caps on as I bring in our guest speaker and everyone here. So I will let Precious now take on. And Precious, if you'll do the introductions for us and get us all set up.
Hey guys, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Precious Norman Walton, so I work side by side with Lotta when it comes to, our transportation focused educational offerings as well as insurance and risk management. But we have a treat today. I'm super excited, to have this firm, this representative on with us. So I don't have a full bio to give you the full treatment here as far as the walk up. I feel like I should have like walk up music, as you're coming up to bat. So if you can just share in a nutshell, who you are, kind of what your focus is, and
Sure,
the information that you're here to share with us today.
sure. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to give my thanks to both Lara and Precious for inviting us today, and and they just wanted for us to educate their group members, which I thought was very cool because they weren't in it for anything else but helping others. So to us, that was very important, and so we are a CPA firm, and we are based out of Houston, Texas, but we do work with people from all 50 states. We're licensed to file all over the US. And also, we also have a branch in Canada. That's because of cross border taxation and things like that. So we do see most of the players in the transportation industry. I typically handle a lot of their portfolios, meaning their taxes and things of that nature. A lot of it comes through my desk. So I get to talk to them and I get to, find out where they are and what's going on. I'm also an author. I'm also a chartered financial analyst. And basically, over the last few years, I'm sure you guys have seen Sam on Facebook. He's our marketing guru, basically. He was a driver himself previously. And basically, throughout the years, we've actually grown our transportation portfolio significantly. And that's why we wanted to share some best practices with the rest of you guys. And I'd be more than happy to answer any question that you guys have. And that's pretty much about it. We serve everyone in the U.S. We're licensed to file in all 50 states, and I have clients from Wyoming to Washington to Florida to California, you name it. But anytime you are going through Houston, Texas, look us up and drop by and say hi.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction and kind of rounding out, all the things that you do, that you see, and what really positions you, as experts in this space. So of course, our audience is mostly transportation focused. So we have motor carriers, we have dispatchers, we have freight forwarders and brokers, and just folks from all walks of the industry. But
Mhm.
the common thread is that these are business owners. And
Yes.
so, what we really want to do is kind of spend the next little bit talking about, some of the best practices, some of the things that they need to be aware of. I've always said that, the difference as far as all the nuances and all just the moving pieces when you're handling your personal affairs versus a business, it's like day and night. So I guess if you can talk a little bit about, how it is that you guys step in and offer some of that support to help us make better decisions as business owners.
Yes, yes, and I'll discuss that when we go through the presentation. And Precious, you nailed it. That mindset change is so important. We don't realize that now we are actually business owners. We're not individuals. We're not employees, and the business is your ship, and you're the captain, and you have to steer that ship, and you have to know everything about that ship. So it is so important to have that mindset change happen and not wait years and years and make lots of mistakes and ending up exiting the industry. So very, very important. Yes.
Absolutely. And we are on board. We're locked in. We're ready to go. It's just important as we're going through this information, just the disclaimer is that just like with any professional service, there's some things that we're going to share very broadly, but if you have questions that are, just a deeper dive and, you need that, that consultation to look at your actual circumstances, this is not intended to replace, that sort of thing. So relationships are everything. Doing business with people that understand you, that you trust, and that you can depend on to keep your best interest first is super important in making any sort of business relationship decision. So with that, we are ready to go and dive into the content you have for us.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and there it is. Perfect. Can we make this okay, awesome. There we go. Let's make it the entire screen. And so, yes, that disclaimer was very important because uh, these are just general practices. These are things that we have seen from our experience, and I personally deal with lots and lots of business owners. I would probably say more than 100 in any given year these years, and everyone's circumstances are different. Everyone's goals are different. So don't take everything in this presentation as something that you have to follow. These are just best practices, and uh, your framework might be different than others. So having that detailed consultation and with a CPA would help a lot. All right, so let's go right in. So this is today we're just going to talk about a successful trucking business journey from the eyes of a CPA or a CPA firm that deals with so many players in the transportation industry, uh, from your owner operators to your big carriers, you name it. And what we see and what that progression is, because we're looking at all different aspects and we're seeing folks in different areas. So what we're going to do is really share one of the practices that we have seen that has worked for folks and how they've been able to scale their business. Again, there's a lot that goes into scaling your business. This is not just, hey, this is step one, two, and three, and I'm done. No, there are lots of small little moving pieces. Compliance being the biggest, the biggest. All right, so now we're going to go in. So we are a CPA firm, and we're based out of Houston, Texas, but we do work with clients all over the U.S. Currently, we're working with clients in probably 20 plus states. That includes owner operators, company drivers, lease holders, carriers, dispatch folks, you name it, even brokers. Wherever you are in the transportation industry, uh, most most likely we have or we're dealing with a similar person that's dealing in the same type of business that you're in. So that's where we have excelled in the transportation side, especially in trucking, whether it's per diem, depreciation. We're really good with depreciation and how we apply depreciation. So what we do is we try to save our clients money, but at the same time, it's not just about that. It's more than that. We try to help them grow and help them scale their business from a financial perspective. We can't go and generate revenue for you. That can't happen. But we can tell you, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, or maybe these are some of your strengths, judging from your numbers. Maybe you ought to focus in this direction more. and that could really be a difference for some business owners. And it takes a little bit of time to realize how important your financials are, uh, but a successful business owner, you can go ask anyone out there, hands down, will tell you financials, financials, financials. They're your friend. They are always your friend. So showing negative net profits every year is not the best thing to do. All right. So that's a little bit about us. We currently, today is the tax deadline. Today is the partnership and all of the LLCs, their tax deadline. So we're currently working with lots of folks. I personally finished a bunch this morning, and I'm kind of done for the day. Meaning done mentally, but not really, like I still have to work. But I'm sure a lot of you guys might have partnerships, S corps. All those are due today if you had filed an extension. So, alrighty, let's talk about some of the various players that we see in the transportation industry, right? So, I mean, there are more players than this. These are just some of the handful names that we see. From so what is the natural progression, right? So a lot of times someone will come in. This now I'm talking about a driver, a frontline worker. Okay, so someone comes in. Well, everyone in the transportation industry is a frontline worker, an essential worker. So someone comes in, right? They don't have their CDL license. They might a carrier. They might have money to pay for the exam or the course, or they might not have. So they'll team up with a carrier. A carrier could be regional or a mega one. Who knows? They'll pay for your CDL license and they'll ask you to sign maybe a 1 year contract with them. There now you are essentially in a shape of a W-2 employee. You're not really a 1099 employee at that time. So once your contract is done, it's easy that way to get acclimated with the industry, but you're not really getting paid a whole lot that first year, barely anything. So, but you're learning about the truck and everything, the different routes. You need to know everything, right? For you to excel in that business. I mean, yes, some people can really excel being behind, um, being behind the actual desk. But sometimes when you're there, when you've seen it, you can tell your drivers better, okay, how to navigate and what to do. So that component is very important. So now the next year you might get into a lease type agreement where you might become a lease operator or an owner operator, some might call it, where you now have your own truck, even though it's leased, but being leased with a buyout option at the end allows you to take depreciation on that truck. Technically, you are an owner of it. Um, so there, everything changes. The way you think, what you do with your savings, your reserves, and again, we'll hit the major flaw or a major, not a major flaw, I would say uh, a major red flag and a major point for a lot of small businesses, even in the transportation industry. So yes, I do head the transportation side here at Akeef CPA, and I also handle the real estate and construction and specialty businesses. So I get to see a lot of different businesses too, plus all the transportation ones. Now let's go to the next screen. Now this is a graph that I had asked my colleague to put together. I didn't want this to be complicated. I didn't want this to. All I'm trying to show you, or all we're trying to depict here, is you need to see where you are today and where you want to be in the future. I know for me personally, a question like this sometimes can be very heavy because of, again, everyone's different. It's okay. It's okay. But at one point or another, you're going to ask yourself this question. This is, where am I today and where would I like to be? First of all, if you love the industry, now that can you all see? Yeah, can you guys see where you are in the graph? I mean, this is all for everyone. I mean, again, yes, this is mainly for folks who have assets such as a truck. But yeah, I mean, in general, if you remove the trucks from this graph, wherever your skill set are in the transportation industry, whether you're in any kind of the compliance, for example, for us, where are we today, and where would we like ourselves to be? That's a big question that you need to ask yourself, because you can get there soon if you plan, or you can get there later just by trial and error, and just being in the industry long enough, and then you'll figure it out. So you figure this out. Where do I want to be? And be realistic. And how long will it take me to get there? And then you will need to figure out, okay, what does my roadmap look like? And then all the pieces around it, all the compliance is very important. Insurance, insurance. You don't need to underbuy insurance. At the same time, you don't need to overbuy insurance. One of your biggest expense, you need to know about it, learn more about it. Because if you're going to be in this industry, you need to know about insurance. Because get a policy that can really fit what you're wanting. Look at your budget, see where things are. We'll talk about um, cash flow in a little bit, but get a policy that really fits. Why do you want to overpay and then complain about insurance? Things like that, where look, a truck, it can kill people easily. This is not a regular vehicle that you're dealing with. So you want to protect yourself and you want to grow the business. Don't let Because you can drive safely, right? You can be the best, safest driver in the world. But the minute you're scaling up, you're going to have to give up some of that control. And someone else is going to be behind that wheel. You don't need to overbuy, but just enough. And then, reevaluate from time to time, every year. Look at your goals. So insurance, compliance, I can't tell you enough. The folks that are on top, the folks that you guys see in the groups, some of these big groups who are now millionaires, they didn't just get there overnight. They had a goal, they had a plan, and then they figured things out along the way. So you don't need to know the whole way. You can't you, if you try to figure out, the stars will never align. Okay, 100%. Simple. So take the chance, roll the dice, get proper insurance. When you scale up, it's going to be so important. Okay, next slide. Biggest hurdle that's going to stop you from being successful: poor cash flow. So we tend to associate cash flow with having more money in our pocket. That is true. But the real definition of having more money in our pocket is called profit. Earning more money is called revenue. Poor cash flow will sink individuals, will sink the biggest businesses out there. They will just do it for you. I mean, you're not gonna, days will go by, weeks will go by, months will go by, and you're just gonna be running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, here and there, just trying to pay bills, just trying to make ends meet. And all of it, especially when you're earning money, it's all stemming from poor cash flow. Poor cash flow. Let's get into it. Let's get into, okay, exactly what is poor cash flow. So first of all, did you guys know that 82% of all small businesses, or most small businesses in the US, they suffer from poor cash flow? Imagine. No wonder so many of them fail, because you can't do anything. When you're stuck in a position where you're just hand to mouth, where you know that, hey, I got bills coming in, but man, that revenue comes in, it's there in your account for 2 days and it's gone. It's gonna keep you tight. You need to improve. You need to figure out, okay, fine, no problem. Okay, it's okay to be in that situation. We all have been there. Let's not even fool ourselves. This is normal. This is part of the growing up process. But let's not be in the same position forever, because then we're not growing. Then we're just stuck. And then if you're stuck in a position where this is going on year in, year out, then you need to think about a different line, because then that line is not for you. Yeah, you might be getting satisfaction from the revenue coming in, but if you can't improve your bottom line, which is your profit, you have to change. Something has to change. The easiest thing to do is to do nothing. I would like to repeat that again. The easiest thing to do is to do nothing. So let's make a change. Let's make a positive change. All right, coming back to that graph. Where are we now? And where would we like to be? If you look on the left of the graph, financials, cash, skills, time, just all these things in general. And guess what? It gives you success, right? You spend more time in an industry, you learn more skills, you get good with cash flow if you're bad initially. You start saving, your reserves get better, and bam, you get into a position where your financials look solid, and bam, that scaling happens quick. But that hard period, the first few years, it's just you believing in yourself, you doing your own thing, and just working hard. But at the same time, being smart doesn't mean that you're overpaying in taxes, because that's an area where I see just so many folks, just thousands of dollars just wasted every year. I mean, that could be going down. You could be saving that and putting that for a new truck or anything else. So you have to see how and where you're progressing. There, the financials are your eyes. The financials tell you the end number. The financials tell you everything. You need good financials, but at the same time, you also want to pay the least amount in taxes legally, right? You have to balance that. Good P&L, strong P&L, and low taxes, or the lowest you can legally. Just remember, if you're doing bad, if you're broke, no one's gonna lend you. So isn't that funny? When you're doing well, then the banks will lend you. But when you're not doing well, they won't even touch you. So they're only working with successful or soon to be successful players. Just remember that. Yes, don't be paper broke. I mean, don't yeah, you could talk about, oh, I have 5 trucks and I'm doing X, Y, and Z and yada 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 and this and that. And I've come across these guys a lot. It happens. It is what it is. You have to keep your mojo on too in the industry. And then you come to see their P&L and you're like, what's going on? I mean, it's just a lot of discretionary expenses and things that you don't need to get into at the moment when you're trying to grow. So gotta keep a lid on those expenses. All right, real causes of poor cash flow. Let's be real. First of all, change of mindset. You are now a business owner. The minute you got away from the W-2, doesn't matter. Even if you're an independent contractor, if you got $1,000 of a 1099, that's $1,000 that you earned as a self-employed, quote unquote, business owner, as a business owner. So you're no longer a person that, oh, doesn't really care. The company takes out my taxes, blah, blah. No, no, no. All that stuff is out the window. You want to grow? Speed up. You're a business owner now. You can't, things can't, they can't linger on. None of that can't happen anymore. You can't be behind on your taxes. You cannot be driving without insurance. All that stuff is out the window. You want to grow, you decide. But if you want to keep on playing the same game with your own mind, year in year out, that you're trying, but you're not really making progress because you don't want to, that's not really trying right there. So you gotta change that hat. You're no longer an employee. That business, that truck, or that office, that room, wherever your laptop is, wherever you're conducting your business from, whether it's your phone, doesn't matter. That's your ship. And you need to know everything about that ship, top to bottom, and how to steer that ship. You're not here to fight the waves. You and I, in our lifetime, we're not here to fight the ocean. We gotta sail along with it, but we need to understand it. It's too big for us. So stop with the excuses. Stop with that. If you're getting a 1099 today, bottom line, you're a business owner. Doesn't matter whether it's from a coffee place, whether it's a Uber driver, wherever it is. So you are a business owner. So how do you improve your cash flow? First of all, you need to know what's coming in and what's going out and when. If you don't know what's coming in and what's going out and when, then there's no planning. There's no budgeting. Yeah, you guys can be couriers of anything. It doesn't matter. You're reporting a Schedule C on your tax return, you're a business owner. But the only way to grow where you are as a Schedule C or a S corporation or LLC partnership, C corporation, doesn't matter. You need to start thinking differently. You have no other choice. If you're gonna think like an employee, then that's it. Maybe this is your peak right here. But don't wait to make this change and wait later on. Yes, you are responsible for your own expenses, every expense. So initially, when you're building that business, you don't need to impress anyone. Go slow and steady, just business expenses only. You can find a Bluetooth on Amazon for 25 bucks. You don't need to go to Pilot and get one of those over there for 100 bucks. Like, what are you trying to do? Once you get a few thousand in your account, you're feeling good, go treat yourself. But first, work for it. Save some money. So no forecasting, no saving. These things will just land you in trouble. Just take a piece of paper today. Just write down your own bills that are coming up every month, every week. You are responsible for your own expenses. That it's that simple. So now imagine poor cash flow. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a very easy example as well. So this is also that businesses face a lot, right? So where you might have revenue coming in, but let's say you're a contractor, you're an owner operator, and you got a guy working for you, and you know that invoice is going to come in maybe next month, and you know that your carrier is maybe slow, or the broker that you're dealing with is slow. They just take their time. So guess what? You have an expense that happens every day, but then you have a revenue that only comes in once a month or once every so often. So now you're stuck with a tight position where you are cash flow tight. And here now, this is what a lot of businesses face. They might get a lot of employees, they might do all the work, but guess what? Their customers, they just are slow with payment. So what can you do in a situation like this? In a situation like this, first thing you can do is, yes, limit your expenses to the bare minimum. I know that can't really happen, um, where you now have to perform a job, especially when you're growing. And I'll be honest with you, anytime you're growing your own business, um, initially You'll go out of your way to make ends meet. You'll go out of your way to make people happy. It will happen. It's natural, right? Because you're trying to build a brand, whatever it is, whatever it is. I'll be honest with you. Like for example, me, I did a lot of free consultations. That's something that I did when in our initial phases when we were growing our transportation portfolio, and then slowly that turned into paid consultations. But it took some time, right? It's natural. It took some time, and then there I had to make a choice where I'm reviewing all the work at the same time. I have to talk to folks and explain also about what's going on with their business, at the same time talk to potential new clients. So there then I have to make a choice, but I'm saying initially it's okay for you to make crazy concessions. Yes, think long term. All of this will repeat. You being sincere to others, you building equity, one way or the other, helping them out here and there, it all adds up. Yes, you will get the clients that you like later on, but slowly, you're also in the phase of trying to figure yourself out as well. So poor cash flow can really hurt you. So here now that you're paying your employees, let's say weekly, and then you have your carrier, then and they're paying you monthly, let's say, and then you just have you're tight. So there, what's your remedy? Well, the first remedy is at some point, you're gonna need to build reserves. So cut out all the unnecessary spending. Once you trust me on this one, get an account. Same place that you already have your own account, your business account, your personal account. As soon as you get money in, put some of it into that other account. Just wait 6 months. Wait until you have a few thousand. I'm not even talking about 10,000. I'm talking about 5,000. Having just few thousands worth of reserves, just watch it boost your confidence too. Small things, just boost your confidence. You'll just feel like, wow, you have so much, but it's okay. So having some reserves, why? Because you could be in a business where, yes, you're invoicing and it's taking some time and you have an employee that you need to pay. Having that little bit of cushion will really help, because yes, you're trying to build equity with that business owner and you're okay with that business owner paying you late initially. Later on, you can correct all these things. Once you establish yourself, you can tell them, hey, this is, but then you'll figure yourself out. So it's okay. So here now, having the reserves are so important. Why? Because if you keep if you keep getting stuck in this position every month, that stress that comes with it, it's going to impair your vision, um, in this entrepreneurship journey that you have started. And I'll just be very honest with you. And sometimes when you're tight with money, this could be very, very stressful. You can be on a very lonely island by yourself, thinking about what you're doing right now, if you made the right choice, um, if you made the right decision coming into this business, and yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. That same question will come into any business that you go into, or any decision that you take. First, people will question you. They will say, why did you take that decision? And once you become successful, they will claim that they always knew that you were going to be successful. But throughout this time, you have to believe in yourself. So keeping some money in the bank account will remove some of that pressure off of you. So do that. Check it out. You'll feel great. You'll think differently, just in a matter of months. Just in a matter of months. Getting a credit card is good too. It's good, but not everyone can play with debt. Some people, they get carried away with debt, where they'll say, "Oh, well, I don't. I all of a sudden I have this money and I don't have." So again, if you're disciplined, I would say yes. I have a client. Again, I can't name names. Who's also in the transportation industry, and he's doing very well. And he's just a master of debt. Just a master of debt. He knows how to use. But again, when the opportunity presents itself, yes, maybe that's a decision that you want to take. But evaluate, see what's going on. Don't just take on debt just because it's free money. There's no such thing as free money. So, so build those reserves. Again, time-related poor cash flow, um, on your financials. I'll be honest with you, debt. basically it's frowned upon. I mean, so with debt is looking and seeing how you're structured is very important. For example, if you are a single member LLC, let's say you set up an LLC, or if you are a partnership, or if you are an S corporation, those three things. Anytime you take on debt, you're able to take the tax benefit right there and then, meaning you you take on the money doesn't come on your books as revenues. If you have a bookkeeper or someone who has classified a loan that you have received as revenue, please tell them to go back and learn their basics, because I see this all the time. And then that debt will always mess up your future lending. Why? Because now you have a monthly payment that you have to make, and we will get to the future of how you can scale with your financials. But then you also need to keep your debt in check, because you really get carried away with debt. So credit cards, all these things are great, but I don't want to encourage them if you're not disciplined, and if you're not good with paying them off regularly. Yes, they can avoid a bunch of interest if you can pay them off regularly, and depending on what you have, maybe a line of credit. Um, but again, slowly, slow and steady. Learn what you can handle, learn what you can master. Focus where your strengths are, and that's it. Go from there. So let's go on to our next slide. Yeah, now let's talk about another. Again, this goes back to that graph that we had. Lack of realistic goals with a timeline. Sure, you want to be like this, or you want to do this, and you want to do that. It's all up in the air. It's in your mind. Again, having something in your mind, it's just like dreaming. It's just like wishful thinking. But yes, they say if you can dream it, you can see it, you can achieve it. So yes, can you materialize it? Yes, you can. That will require work. That will require. Otherwise, you're just having a great idea, or having this, but not really focusing on it, and not really making it realistic. Then that's just wishful thinking. That's not going to get you anywhere. So we need to come up with a plan, a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan. And some folks, they have a 1-year plan, and they're very aggressive, no problem. But have a plan. All right. Again, going back to the big question: where am I now, and where do I see myself in the future? And how will I get there? Start, ask yourself that question today. Trust me, the answer is there. You have it. We all do. But for some of us, this question is just heavy, but it's okay. So ask yourself this question and chart your own path. Everyone's path is different, but chart your own path. All right. Some good best practices. So forecasting your earnings, your revenue. It's not about knowing how much is coming in. It's also knowing about how much is coming in and when. Okay. Plan your expenses according to your revenue schedule if you can. Again, not all of us are at the liberty of planning our schedule. That doesn't happen, right? Our expenses. But again, so we can try. We can try. So just plan your expenses accordingly. If you can, use factoring if possible. Honestly, I would uh, I wouldn't want to have you guys incur any additional cost. But sometimes you just need to get that revenue to you as soon as possible. So there, yes, you might need to use a factoring service. So go for it. But let that be part of your strategy. Let that be part of your goal. When, how much am I going to use? What am I going to do? And once you get that reserve, once you get all those cash flow problems solved, and every business owner is different, you know so so 5,000 is a good amount. For some it could be 10, for some could be 20, but it's not a solution. It's not a solution. It's a fix for a temporary problem. Factoring is just, but do people use it to their benefit? Do people use it to improve their cash flow when they're tight. Yes, it happens. Yes, it happens. Because sometimes when you're stuck with an invoice and a big client, because a lot of times we don't realize that putting all, I mean, having that one big client can also be big trouble. So you getting your revenues, you getting your loads from one person or one entity, and then something happening, that could be big trouble as well. So there, diversifying is the key. But in this day and age, I know sometimes we'll build relationships and we'll be with a carrier for a long time, and then they'll give us dedicated lanes or whatever the case might be. But wherever you are, the point is that you need to grow from there. You don't need to stay idle. So forecasting your earnings, knowing how much is coming in and when, planning your expenses if you can accordingly. Don't overspend. No need to get flashy. No need to buy lights. Forget all that. No one cares. No one cares. Honestly, nobody cares. Build those reserves. And initially, yes, you might be in a position where you might need to utilize some services, but it is definitely going to cost you when you use factoring. That's just out of the question. You're Someone else is taking on the risk for you for that period of time, but that's a temporary solution to a big problem that people face. But if this is something that you're doing routinely, you need to change. You need to change. You need to figure out who you're dealing with. You need to talk about your payment terms. You need to do all that because you're doing all the work. Your team is doing all the work, and you're just not getting paid on time. Simple. All right, let's go to our next slide. Again, I keep bringing this chart up because it's very important because we just lose sight of where we're trying to go. We get all caught up in, oh, I didn't I had this much of a delay, oh, I had this and I had this, I had that, and then we have all this free time, and then but we're not thinking. So we need to really sit down and think. So we need to know everything about our money, how much is coming in when, and how much is going out and when. That is a solution for a lot of cash flow problems. Again, the journey to success. You want to scale up, you want to be the top notch. Yes, you want other people to work for you, you want to be in the office. All that is amazing, all that is great, but there are lots of pieces that you need to put together in that journey. So compliance, compliance, compliance. If you got $1 million and you have all these back taxes and you haven't filed anything, guess what? All that $1 million is nothing. Why? Because you're thinking about your taxes, you're thinking about that IFTA sticker, you're thinking about your insurance, you're thinking about, hey, I'm not running proper, I'm not running legal. You're thinking about all these things. So what's the point? The point is for you to earn money, enjoy it. It's not for you and I. We all know we're not here to live 60 years or 100 years. At the most, for some, could be 10, 20, 30. That's it. So we need to be realistic. Where do we want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? How do we get there? What do we need to do? If you got a single member LLC currently, think again. Okay. Again, same thing. One example I'd like to share. This is just from a financial perspective, not from a compliance perspective, not something that everyone is going to. So, for example, let's say you are someone who starts your journey as a company driver, then you're an owner operator, and guess what? In your third, fourth year, you meet some gurus, and you find out that these guys all have an LLC and they're doing X, Y, and Z. And guess what? You get an LLC. Then you tell your carrier he's running all the income through the LLC. You gotta have a business bank account. All that good stuff is going. But now the foundation is starting to get built a little bit here and there. Okay. Guess what? The next step comes in. Now you got 2 trucks, you got 3 trucks, and you need to bifurcate. You need to, hey, you have assets, you have liabilities, you have risk involved. You're getting proper insurance, but guess what? On one of the LLCs, you make that into an S corporation. That could be your operating company, and the other one could be just a single member, or it could be a partnership or an S corporation that has your assets. Okay, then now you're running a big operation. Now you have a lot of things under control. Now, this stuff doesn't just get built up overnight. It takes time. That foundation of your business needs to be accurate. The very first thing that needs to happen is incorporation. If you're currently running under your own name or you just have a DBA, you need to step away from it. Why? Because there's no protection of liability. There's no there, and you're the setup of taxes is horrible. You're gonna pay the most amount in taxes if you are a single member LLC or a DBA or a sole proprietor. That's just simply the truth. So if you're making profit, if you're negative, then it doesn't matter, you know. So, but yes, you certainly need a CPA to help guide you with your business. So that foundation is so important because you need to scale up, you need to have assets, you need to have everything, but you need to also pay the least amount in taxes. The way the US structure works is if you just pick up the IRS's guide and you just fill out your taxes, you're going to pay the most amount in taxes, not the least amount in taxes. So the IRS's code is so big and wide that you need to first of all specialize in transportation, and then at the same time guide whoever is in that industry on the tools and various mechanisms that they can utilize to grow. And that will be part of your long term strategy. So being fully optimized, being fully tax optimized, knowing that, hey, now from this point on, all I got to do is grow. That is it. Okay. So there's nothing more you need to do. So having that great foundation is the first step. So meaning you're even in your one truck, get that foundation good. You know, fine. Now you have two trucks. Make sure you're a S corporation. Make sure you're giving yourself that W-2. Make sure you're meeting all the IRS requirements. Okay. All right. And this is just one of the business structures I wanted to, give out. A lot of times we fall into this simple single members LLC structure, but a lot of times we have seen folks with complex structures, and I do specialize in business structures. I can help out in this area quite a bit. Okay. Now, this is what an S corporation tax return looks like. A lot of folks out there think that they have an S corporation just because they have an LLC, but that is not true. If you're filing this form every year, you have an S corporation. If you are not filing this form every year, you do not have an S corporation. Bottom line. Again, save money, per diem deduction, truck depreciation the right way. Don't write off. If you're into that write off, deduction, you're gonna lose the battle. The way to think about all this is revenue. It's not about write off, reduction. It's about revenue. And then the business structure, tax benefits, all the good stuff. Again, compliance, insurance. All right, so let's do our Q&A session. I think I took a little bit more time than expected, but there was quite a bit. It's this is just a higher level overview, but there's just a lot that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, that was a really good, introduction, and again, setting that stage for the need um, to create this relationship so that people can sit down with their own specifics and really kind of get a walkthrough and understand of why this is so important. So there's a lot of powerful nuggets of wisdom that you shared with everyone. If you could, I guess kind of in a nutshell, I know the presentation was very thorough. What would your advice be, as you started off and mentioned, this is the extension deadline, for those who are, kind of getting there, getting everything together, getting ready for the last quarter of the year. What is like the most common mistake that you find, first time small business owners make?
They're just everyone's just focused on negative profits. they don't realize how important it is to look healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is just focused on write off, write off, write off, deduction, 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 because they don't want to pay taxes. Well, none of
Okay.
us want to pay taxes, right? But again, this is the country that we live in. You know, we enjoy the 911 benefits, the roads, everything. This is just part of the whole system, the ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the objective needs to be profit, 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 because if you are earning revenue and if you're making profit, then the taxes are just part of it. That's just the cost of doing business. That's it. So that I just feel that the focus for the first year and the second year person a lot of times is just, hey, I don't want to pay taxes, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want, because that mindset has not shifted yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think that's a big, big mistake that they'll find out when they're in their ninth and 10th year of this journey.
And I guess my last follow up question to that, oftentimes when we transition from W 2, where everything's taken out, everything's done, whatever they put in your hand belongs to you, into that business owner mentality where you're responsible for the taxes, you're responsible for your expenses. One of the things that I have just heard and seen that gets overlooked is self employment tax.
Hmm.
So, can you just very briefly share, when you're not having like Social Security, Medicare, held out through an employer, that doesn't mean that you no longer contribute. And so I know that there's an option to do, periodic filings through the year. If someone hasn't looked into that, what would be the first step to figure out, how they can prepare and it's not just the end of the year concern that they address?
Okay. So first of all, the minute you don't have a W-2 and you're getting a 1099, or even in cases where you're not getting a 1099 and you know you've earned income and you have to report, you're going to pay self-employment tax. That
Hmm.
just means that now you are self-employed. The word itself is explanatory, self-employment taxes. So now this is where the rookie versus the veteran. This is where it all differentiates. A person who is a brand new uh, person in this industry, typically they will be operating under a DBA or operating under a single member LLC. Those two things they get reported on your Schedule C of your personal taxes.
Hmm.
So self-employment taxes get kicked in right there and then. So you might think that you're earning more just because you got a big 1099, but that is not the case. That 1099 is fooling you. So you have to
Hmm.
see that 1099 as business income and then really reduce that number down. But that's not a long-term viable strategy where you're reporting everything on your tax returns on Schedule C.
That's good. And so, what would you recommend for those of us that, for example, maybe in the household there's a spouse or someone that still works traditionally, and then you are, exploring entrepreneurship, and so you have the 1099. When it comes time to file, you kind of have a mixed situation because you do have someone who has more, traditionally reported earnings versus what you do. Is there any specific approach, or is that one of those things offline they'd have to talk to you about?
Um, well, so the way the U.S. system and the IRS and the Department of Treasury works is if you are earning, they want a piece of it. Simple. That's
Of course.
I can't this is it. So if you're earning, so and we're gonna have instances where uh, and the U.S. government is really good also about letting you honorary report,
Hmm.
meaning they might not have access to that information, but that doesn't mean that you being a good citizen should not report it. You should
Hmm.
report it. So if you are someone where you might have a spouse that's working from home, and if they are earning, even if they're not earning, that's their gig. Most
Hmm.
Americans have gigs,
Yes.
so that expense needs to be allocated again. But it's okay until you're negative. But the minute your spouse who's working from home turns the page and earns a profit, now your foundation is a very weak foundation,
Hmm.
and that Schedule C will hurt you. So that foundation, the incorporation, and then moving on to the next steps is very important, and especially for some of those team drivers out there. If you're having a partnership, rethink again, because a partnership, because you both are driving together and it's an
Mhm.
active role, you guys are both general partners, and general partners do get self-employment tax. So even though you have a partnership, you're paying self-employment tax. So be
Wow.
careful. Yes.
Yeah, and that just, is a good place to close, that there are a lot of words and terms that sound similar, but how it applies and what it really means for your bottom line, how much you owe, what you may get back, how you, I love the word optimize,
Yes.
your
Yeah.
tax position. That's amazing.
So
So
someone asked.
yeah, this has been great. And so you shared how people can find you and
Sure.
follow up with
Yes.
you.
Yes. This is our website, akifcpa.com, or just send us an email, info@akifcpa.com. I don't know if I can put that on the screen, but we can help your we can answer all your questions. Someone just asked a question about paying yourself. If you have an LLC, of course you can. But if you're a single member LLC, you can't technically. But if you're an S corporation, yes, you can. But if you have a partnership, then the way you pay yourself with a partnership is guaranteed payments. You can't give yourself a W-2. All these things you need to look at. So
So do take advantage. Like you said, we're bringing this information to share just for, your knowledge, for your, betterment, so that you can, do business, with people that you know and trust, that understand the space, because there are a lot of very nuanced pieces. There's some very specific stuff,
yes,
that happens in our industry. So again, we thank you so much for you being so gracious and giving with your knowledge today.
thank you.
And, for
And this
everyone
is
who
the
tuned in.
Yeah, and this is the book that I have actually published, so you can actually check it out on Amazon.com and just put in my first name and last name, and you should be able to see it. But thank you to Lada and Precious, and
Thank you.
just having us here to just inform the community and just to educate. And we're very in tune with the transportation industry, so whatever you guys have questions wise in the future too, please find us. We're available on the web, and that's our phone number right here, 713-451-9700. And thank you very much, Precious. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. All right, Lotta, take it away. Is she coming back? There she goes.